Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtavraya Shavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb. Text 27 onwards. Ekayano aso dvifal stri mulasha chaturasah panch vidha shadatma saptatva kashta vitapo navaksho dashat chadi dvikhago hiyadi vriksha. The total body and the individual body are of the same composition, may figuratively be called the original tree. From this tree, which fully depends on the ground of material nature, comes two kinds of fruit: the enjoyment of happiness and the suffering of distress. The cause of the tree forming its three roots is association with the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. The fruits of bodily happiness have four tastes: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are experienced through five senses for acquiring knowledge in the midst of six circumstances: lamentation, illusion, old age, death, hunger, and thirst. The seven layers of bark covering the tree are skin, blood, muscle, fat, bone, marrow, and semen. And the eight branches of the tree are the five gross and three subtle elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and falsity. The tree of the body has 9 hollows: the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the mouth, the rectum, and the genitals, and 10 leaves, or 10 ears passing through the body. In this tree of body, there are two birds. One is individual soul, and the other is the super soul. So the demigods are comparing this tree, this body with a tree with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different kind of things. But in this tree of body, there are two birds. One is individual and the other is a super soul. This material world is composed of 5 principal elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, all of which are emanations from Krishna. Although materialistic scientists may accept these 5 primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation, these elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna, whose marginal potency also produces the living entities working within this material world. The 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita clearly states that the entire cosmic manifestation is a combination of 2 of Krishna's energies, the superior and the inferior energy. The living entity, superior energy, and the inanimate material elements are his inferior energy. In the dormant stage, everything rests in Krishna. Now, material scientists cannot give such a thorough analysis of the material structure of the body. The analysis of the material scientist concerns itself only with inanimate matter, means just a gross body. But this is inadequate because a living entity is completely separate from the material bodily structure. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Aparayam Itaspanya. Besides this inferior nature of mighty Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which consists of all the living entities who are struggling with material nature, sustaining the universe. Although the material elements emanate from the Supreme Personality of God and Krishna, they are separated elements and are sustained by the living elements. So this is how the whole verse is working. There are two animate and inanimate, means living or non-living energies, and the living energy is struggling with the material nature and sustaining the universe. As indicated by the word Dvikhaga, the living elements within the body resemble 2 birds in a tree. Ka means sky and Ga means one who flies. Thus the word Dvikhaga refers to birds. In the tree of the body, there are 2 birds or 2 living elements, and they're always different. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Kshetragyam chapi mam. Ocean of Bharat, you should understand that I'm also the knower in all the bodies. The Kshetragya, the owner of the body, is also called the Khaga, the living entity. Within the body, there are two such Kshetragyas, the individual soul and the super soul. The individual soul is the owner of his individual body, but the super soul is present within the bodies of all living entities. Such a thorough analysis and understanding of the bodily structure cannot be obtained anywhere but in the Vedic literature. Now, along with the individual soul in the body, in the heart, which is sitting, is the owner of this body, now there are trillions of cells in the body. The body is made up of trillions of cells, and every cell is living. We studied earlier in Bhagavatam. So every cell has a soul. Now, along with these, there are so many microorganisms inside the body, which are all living. So they also have souls. Now just imagine this body, and that's why it's called microcosm. This is like a mini universe in itself. So in this, the owner of this body, now the real owner is a super soul, obviously, but the owner or the tenant, we can say, the prime tenant, is this individual soul. It's just like in our house, wherever we are living, so one person is the owner or the tenant, he has rented it or he owns it. But then there are so many living entities also living in the same house. They're not paying rent and they don't have any EMIs to pay. Means they don't take part of the karma of the body. This one soul, he is responsible for the karma. And this is how he has created the whole universe. When two birds enter a tree, one may foolishly think that the birds become one or merge with the tree, but actually they do not. Rather, each bird keeps its individual identity. Similarly, the individual soul and the super soul do not become one, nor do they merge with matter. The living entity lives close to matter, but this does not mean that it merges or mixes with it. Although material scientists mistakenly see the organic and inorganic, or animate and inanimate, to be mixed. So, although the living entity is the soul is inside the body, or the body is a covering on the soul, but they don't mix. It's just like oil and water. They don't mix. But what mixes is our consciousness. When we start, we means the soul thinks that I am this body. That's where the whole problem starts. Vedic knowledge has been kept imprisoned or concealed, but every human being needs to understand it in truth. The modern civilization of ignorance is simply engaged in analyzing the body, and thus people come to the erroneous conclusion that the living force within the body is generated under certain material conditions. People have no information of the soul, but this verse gives the perfect explanation that there are two living forces, the individual soul and the super soul. The super soul is present in every body. Ishvara sarvabhutana, hriddeshe arjun tishtati. Whereas the individual soul is situated only in his own body and is transmigrating from one body to another. And keeps on transmigrating. Since time immemorial, we've been going from one body to another, thinking I'm this body and I'm that body, I'm this body, I'm that body, and acting accordingly and trying to find happiness in that body. In the end, we are either total failure or partial failure. Nobody's complete successful. There's no such thing. And when we are partial failure, means we have achieved something and we enjoyed a little, And then people will, when we die, people will gather around. Oh, he or she was such a self-made man, a self-made woman, and he did this, and he did that, she did that, and he enjoyed this way, and she enjoyed that way, and that's it. And the person is gone to next body to start all over. What is the point? That's why scriptures say it's just wastage of time. Shram eva hi kevalam. If we have worked so hard in this material to achieve this position, that possession, and this relationship or that achievement, this award or that thing or this, if we don't develop attachment for the message of Krishna, for service of Krishna, for Krishna's name, then it's Shram eva hi kevalam. Just like a donkey, he works very hard for nothing. We also working very, very hard for actually nothing. Tvameka evasya satah prasutis svam sannidhanam tvam anugrihascha tanmayaya samvrita cheta sasaspam pashyanti nanana vipaschito. The efficient cause of this material world, manifested with its many varieties as the original tree, is you, O Lord. Lord is sitting inside the womb of his mother, and they are saying, you are the efficient cause. O Lord, you are also the maintainer of this material world, and after annihilation, you are the one in whom everything is conserved. Those who are covered by your external energy cannot see you behind this manifestation, but theirs is not the vision of learned devotees. So various demigods, beginning from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Vishnu, are supposed to be the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world, but actually they are not. The fact is that everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, manifested in varieties of energy. Ekam eva dvitiyam Brahma. There is no second existence. Those who are truly vipaschit, learned, are those who have reached the platform of understanding and observing the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any condition of life. That's a real vision, actually. And all these demigods are gathered, and they are saying to Krishna in the womb of Devaki all these things. So they exactly know what's the position of Krishna. It's just when Krishna performs his pastimes, even demigods get bewildered. Lord Brahma, that's Muyanti Yat Surya, that's Bhagavatam's second verse says. He just bewilders everybody by his pastimes. But learned devotees, they see through it. Learned devotees accept even conditions of distress as representing the presence of the Supreme Lord. When a devotee is in distress, he sees that the Lord has appeared as distress, just to relieve or purify the devotee from the contamination of the material world. And actually, that is true. And that's why the Lord does all this testing for his devotees. And in the end, he's there to protect them also, just like all these demigods. They are bewildered or they are in distress by all these demons, demoniac forces. And they have come to pray to the Lord, and Krishna will take care of them. While one is within this material world, one is in various conditions, and therefore a devotee sees a condition of distress as but another feature of the Lord. Tatyanukampam susamikshamana. A devotee therefore regards distress as a great favor of the Lord because he understands that he is being cleansed of contamination. The appearance of distress is a negative process intended to give the devotee relief from this material world, which is called Mrityu Sansar, or the constant repetition of birth and death. So the distress is a negative process intended to give the devotee relief. So we understand this is not my real place, because home is where there is no distress. There cannot be any distress at home. So this is not my real home, because we all are suffering here. So real home has to be the spiritual one. To save a surrendered soul from repeated birth and death, the Lord purifies him of contamination by offering him a little distress. This cannot be understood by a non-devotee, but a devotee can see this because he is vipashit or learned. A non-devotee therefore is perturbed in distress, but a devotee welcomes distress as another feature of the Lord. Sarvam khalam idam brahm. Devotee can actually see that there is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and no second entity. Ekam eva dvitiyam. There is only the Lord who presents himself in different energies. So that is a state we want to reach. We get disturbed, we get distracted by being put in distress. But we have to see Krishna's hand everywhere. Without Krishna's hand, without everything being controlled by Krishna, nothing can happen. Not even a blade of grass can move without his sanction. So how can any distress come in our life, whether through some person or some other living entity? It cannot come without his sanction. And those who are devotees, they think, okay, this is for my betterment, for my purification. Yes, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes lots of purification to come to that level of understanding, lots of association, lots of devotional service. But what other option we have? If we don't think it this way, if we don't understand it this way, and we start blaming Krishna or the other persons or this or that, then we are just prolonging our suffering in the material world by adding on to our lives. More birth, death, old age, and disease. More birth, death, old age, and disease. Persons who are not in real knowledge think that Brahma is the creator, Vishnu the maintainer, and Shiva the annihilator, and that the different demigods are intended to fulfill diverse purposes. Thus, they create diverse purposes and worship various demigods to have these purposes fulfilled. A devotee, however, knows that these various demigods are but different parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that these parts need not be worshipped. So need not be worshipped, but they should be respected, definitely. And after also Vishnuji, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, when all the demigods went there, he did not give darshan to demigods. He just came in the mind of Brahmaji when Brahmaji was sitting down and meditating, and he said, the Supreme Lord is going to come. It's his time to come. So even Kshirodaksha Vishnu knows who's the Supreme. Ye api anya devata bhakta. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, the son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. There is no need to worship the demigods, for this is avidhi, not in order. Simply by surrendering oneself at the lotus feet of Krishna, one can completely discharge one's duties. There is no need to worship various deities or demigods. These various divinities are observed by the moodhas, fools who are bewildered by the three modes of material nature. Such fools cannot understand that the real source of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not being disturbed by the Lord's various features, one should concentrate upon and worship the Supreme Lord. This should be the guiding principle of one's life. So that's all we are trying, we are struggling, we are trying to do. But as Prabhupada said, we are on the right track, that's all. Bibharchi Rupani Avabodhatma Kshemai Lokasya Characharasya Satvopapannani Sukhavahani Satam Avadrani Muhu Khalanam. O Lord, you are always in full knowledge, and to bring all good fortune to all living entities, you appear in different incarnations, all of them transcendental to the material creation. When you appear in these incarnations, you're pleasing to the pious and religious devotees, but for non-devotees, you're the annihilator. This verse explains why the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as an incarnation again and again. The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead all function differently. But the main purpose is Paritrana Sadhunam Vinashaya Dushkrita, to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. Yet even though the Dushkritis or miscreants are annihilated, this is ultimately good for them. But that's why you appear, and with different functions, perform different functions. Tvai ambujakshar khil sattvadhamni samadhi naveshit chetasake tatpada potena mahatkritena kurvanti govatsa padam bhavabdhim. O lotus-eyed Lord, by concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which is a reservoir of all existence, and by accepting these lotus feet as a boat by which to cross the ocean of nations, one follows in the footsteps of Mahajans, great saints, sages, and devotees. By this simple process, one can cross the ocean of nations as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. So that's why I got the backdrop, this devotee clinging on to the lotus feet of the Lord. The true mission in life is to cross the ocean of nations of repeated birth and death. For the true mission, the mission that is taught to us in the schools, in the society, in the families and relatives, is eat, drink, and be merry. That's all. But that's not the true mission. Is to how to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Those in the darkness of ignorance, however, do not know this mission. Instead, being carried away by the waves of material nature, they are undergoing the tribulations of mrityu, samsara, vartamani, repeated birth and death. But persons who have achieved knowledge by the association of devotees follow the Mahajans. Such a person always concentrates his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord and executes one or more of the 9 varieties of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Simply by this process, one can cross the insurmountable ocean of nations, ignorance. It can all be wiped out just by concentrating on one or more of the 9 varieties of devotional service. Devotional service is powerful in any form. According to this verse, Maharaj Parikshit became fully liberated by fully concentrating his mind on hearing the Lord's holy name, attributes, and pastimes. Similarly, Shukdev Goswami simply glorified the Lord, and by speaking on the subject matters of Krishna that constitute the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, he too was liberated. One may also be liberated simply by sakhya, friendly behavior with the Lord, such as the power of devotional service, as we learn from the example set by the Lord's many pure devotees. So far we have studied so many words, so many things about so many pure devotees of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and so many others. So Mahajano Yena Pathasakanta, we have to follow in the footsteps of Mahajans. So by this one easy process, one can cross the great ocean of nations, just as one might cross a small hole created by the hoof of a calf. This how big this Bhavasagar becomes. The water contained in a small hole created by the hoof of a calf, not even hoof of a cow, of a calf, which is even smaller. And Prabhupada explained someday it's like 1.5 inch in diameter. That's all. How big it is and how easy it is for anybody to cross over. Here the Lord is described as Ambujaksha, or lotus-eyed. By seeing the eyes of the Lord, which are compared to lotus flowers, one becomes so satisfied that one does not want to turn his eyes to anything else. Simply by seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, a devotee is at once fully absorbed in the Lord in his heart. This absorption is called samadhi. A yogi is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord, but for he has no other business than to think of the Lord always within the heart. It's also said, Samashitaye pada pallavam. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is a shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the demon Mura. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. His goal is Parampadam or Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. This process is recommended here by the authorities like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and therefore we must take to this process in order to transcend nations. This is very easy, but we must follow in the footsteps of great personalities, and then success will be possible. In regard to the word Mahat Kritena, it is also significant that the process shown by great devotees is not only for them, but also for others. If things are made easy, this affords facility for the person who has made them easy, and also for others who follow the same principles. The process recommended in this verse for crossing the ocean of nations is easy, not only for the devotees, but also for common persons who follow the devotee. So this is how the process works. The devotees, they themselves are going beyond this material world and they're taking many others. So we just have to preach to others, distribute this message to others so everybody else can also take advantage of this process and become eligible. We don't know who's at what spot in his spiritual progress. All we have to do is help. Maybe the other person is way ahead of us. Who knows? All we have to do is help everybody and anybody. That's all. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare Krishna, please accept mine.
No, thank you, Prabhuji. I was just trying to absorb in the words of this purports. So it seems that Prabhupada is constantly trying to motivate us, saying that this material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. But as of now, my state is like, for me, it's like not a calf's hoof print, but it's like a big ocean. So how really can I, in practical life, how can I mean, this word, especially specific, this line, how can I implement that, convincing myself that it is the quantity wise, it's so small that it is very easy to cross over. But in reality, I am failing to implement it in my life.
By doing what is shown in the picture behind me.
Hari Bol, correct.
Just hang on to his lotus feet, Prabhupada's lotus feet. That's all. They'll help us cross.
True, Prabhuji, true. And this is another one realization is like there was never a direct process. Like to reach Krishna, we have to always go by the process by following our previous acharyas, and as it is we have to follow the devotees. So without that, it is never ever possible to reach Krishna.
Yeah, that's not the process. So we always remain under the service of acharyas, previous acharyas, and they take us to the right goal. And even in spiritual world. So that's why we all are called, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are taken to Gaudiya Vaishnava line, we are all called Rupanugas. followers of Rupa Goswami. So in the spiritual world, we all serve Krishna and Radharani under the guidance of Rupa Goswami or Rupa Manjari. And specifically in Rupa Manjari's group under Prabhupada. Prabhupada has his own group under Rupa Manjari. So that's why every morning when we sing this Guru Ashtakam, we say, na, Chakshudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu say. He's my Lord, birth after birth. So that's Prabhupada.
Jai. This is the most sublime and sacred process in this age of Kali. And there is all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our
Definitely all glories to Prabhupada. Definitely.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Manta. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Jai Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai